Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Okay, so we are back from Flight Fest. Had a really good time and had some brainstorming with some friends and had really good conversations and really good food. And we want to move on. We want to do something a little bit different, a little bit bigger. And as you can tell from the title of the video, we're going quite big. We're going quarter scale. Now, the whole reason I want to video document this entire build is because building large is a little bit different than building your average sport scale model in foam. So there are some decisions that you've got to make. This is going to be a pretty technical series, all right? So if that's not really your jam, I'm sorry, but I feel like this is something that I haven't really covered on my channel before. So I know how to do this. I've never done this before. And that's why I want to try and see if we fail. So it's going to be cool. So I'm going to be using some really common materials. I'm going to be using literally foam from the dollar store, foam from the hardware store, Gorilla Glue, some plywood, some fiberglass, and sanding sealer or water-based polyurethane, whatever you want to call it. It's the same stuff. So really what we're going to do is first we're going to talk about plans, how to read them, how to plan for them, plan for the plans. So let's just get into it. All right, so as you can see, we have plans here. Very, very large plans. In fact, these plans make up the majority. Well, they make my deck look small. So really what we're looking at here is a top view, primarily a top view of the wings. And that's where we're going to start, because that's going to be probably the most complicated, and I can get some of the most basic stuff taught to you guys in the shortest amount of time. So really what we're going to be doing here is we're not too worried about like these sizes. So 1/6. So these plans were originally 1/6 scale, and I enlarged them to 1/4. So we're at like 82 and a half inch wingspan, and I love the D.VIII because it's got this nice big wing. And the cool part about the D.VIII is that the wing is entirely sheeted with plywood on the full scale, so there's no ribs showing. That makes our construction really easy, but at the same time, it helps us build something really light that's really strong without having to like go too crazy with stuff. It keeps the construction pretty much as simple as possible for a large, like giant scale airplane. So really what we're looking at here is we've got, after studying the plans, that's the first thing. You got to study the plans and figure out what you're going to do. So primarily we have a load on this spar. Okay, so there's a little bit of dihedral anhedral thing going on. Here we go. Here's the front cross section view. Okay, so it goes down a little bit here, it goes up a little bit here, and then it's pretty much straight in the center. And really what sets that is this half spar here. See, there's a little crook up. It's very slight. We're talking like not even 5 degrees. So it says 2 laminations of 1/16 plywood. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this out, and then we're going to trace it onto some plywood, flip it over, and mirror it so that the entire spar is one solid piece. Now, as many of you know, some of the wood situation right now is crazy expensive. So I am making do with what I have. I have some leftover plywood from outfitting my trailer. If you haven't checked out that series, I highly suggest you do so because it's a really fun project. So I'm going to use leftover plywood from that, and I measured it, and it's slightly under a normal SAE size. So it's 11 millimeters. Weird size. We're going to roll with it. So let me show you what I've done and what we're going to do in terms of the wing construction. This is going to take place over multiple days. So once I get things set up, I'm going to come back, explain what I've done, and point out some additional things. So really what we're looking at here is first I cut out all of the ribs. All of them on the plans, okay? And just cut them out as is. You can see where some of them have my ailerons that I'm going to be attaching, and there are some leading edge and trailing edge pieces that will go there as well. So the rib will go there. So first thing I've done is I've planned for where I want the servos to be. So the servos I'll keep in a stock location. That makes sense because it's more or less in the middle of the control surface. Okay, that's really important. So we don't need to make any additional holes. So our 8, as you can see, does not have a hole through it. So we've got our 7, our 6, our 5, and then our 4, our 3, our 2, and our 1. Our 1, wait a minute, wait. So our 0 and our 1, why don't those have holes? Well, the reason is we're going to run a little hole here. So these are mounting points. Okay, so these are where the struts are going to lay across the wing to support the wing. So we're going to cut a little hole like here, and we're going to run that aileron servo wire through, and there's going to be a hole here that there's going to be a connection here. So we can make a detachable wing. It's all going to be one piece, and I'll just deal with 82 inches. I got 72 inches back in the corner. So that yellow wing, yeah, that's 72. So 10 more inches. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to make that connection there. We're planning for that. So we only need holes through our 2, which is here. Now, like I said, the spar is 11 millimeters. So looking at the plans, we've got these 2 laminations of spars. Okay, that's for strength. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that 11 millimeter plywood, and all of these, those are shear webs. Okay, so you cut these out, and these are how you're supposed to frame up your ribs. You're supposed to use the stringers or the spars, and then you use the shear webs to frame everything up. We're going to do the same thing here, only with a twist. We are going to use foam for the shear webs that extend past the spars. Sounds a little weird, I know. Thing is, the Seamaster 2, yeah, that little plane right there, yeah, that one. If you go back and you review that airplane build, I used just a 1/2 inch foam spar for that entire wing, and it's done loops and rolls and all sorts of stuff. And so the Balsa USA airplane quote at this size in wood, so they quote 12 to 14 pounds. Okay, so generally speaking, foam builds roughly around 1/2 to 2/3 of the weight. Depends on how much detail, how crazy you get, but it does build significantly lighter. So if we're talking like 6 to 9 pounds, that's going to be plenty strong enough, especially because we're going to be sheeting the top and the bottom with additional foam. So there's all of that glue to help keep things straight. Okay. So that's the plan. We're going to use the traces for the shear webs extending out from R4 all the way to the tip, and we're going to construct the wing the same way. Inside of R4, so between R4, R3, and R3 and R2, we are going to use the same shear webs as well, but we will have the shear webs lined up so that we can fit the spar directly in front of them or aft of them. So there are 2 of these spars that hold this whole wing together. So we will construct a panel, we will construct another panel that's mythical, and we will construct the middle section with the spars. And from there, once we have our ribs in place, we will start with a bottom sheet skin out of dollar store foam board. Now, the ribs are going to be made out of a thicker foam, and the reason for that I'll get to in a minute in the video, so bear with me. So I've got all of these ribs that I've got to modify So far I've done R0 and R2 just because I had them. I've cut out the recess for the spar at the correct location, as well as taken my compass. Okay, take your compass and you measure the thickness of the skin, which is roughly 4.5 millimeters. You can do 5, because remember, Gorilla Glue expands. And then I trace all the way around, and then I cut. So that is how I account for the thickness of the foam. All right. So now I got to do that on all the ribs, and then I got to cut all the ribs out of the foam, and then I got to cut spars, and then I can start assembling stuff. All right. So I'm going to cut all those things out. I'm going to skip over all of that boring stuff, and maybe I'll do some time-lapse stuff of me actually assembling stuff. I'm excited to get going on this, so let's get going. All right, another day, another mess. As you can see, taking care of the ribs requires a little bit of effort. It's not that bad because the foam is soft, and if you screw up, it's really easy to just trace another one, cut it again. And again, since all of this is being skinned, you kind of don't mess, you kind of can't mess up. Well, I mean, you can, but you have to kind of be trying to, because like if you notice that, go back and look through some of the footage. Every once in a while, my hand would slip with the file, and this rasping file can take a pretty big gouge out of foam pretty quickly. So, leaving these imperfections is not a huge deal, because again, using the Gorilla Glue, that's going to foam out and still make a really excellent bond. So, where we're at now is we have the center section is put together. It is glued. See? Glue. So with the glue in place, I am now setting myself, okay, so I'm working on a number of tasks. I need to start skinning the center section, but I only want to skin the bottom. There's a reason. I'll get there. We're not there quite yet. The other issue is the way that I'm planning to put together the outer panels is by using the shear web template. So the modification to the shear webs is that, okay, so I have to account for the thickness of this foam, because obviously this does not match up per the thickness on the plans. The reason I'm doing this, again, I'll get there. We're not there quite yet. Once we get to the skinning, I'll show you what I mean. So I have to count for the thickness of the foam in between each section per the plans. So I'm removing about 5 millimeters. It's like 5.5 on each side, except for this part where it's 11 millimeters to account for the thickness, like here. Okay, so what I mean by that is, so we have, let's get some proper measurements around here. We have foam that is 1.5 millimeters thick. Okay, so if you account for the thickness of the rib, because we're trying to modify stuff that's fit to these plans already, we've already got 5 millimeters here, and then 5 there, so it's like 10, but if you line up the lines, it's kind of fuzzy, so it's more like 11. And obviously I'm going to be building this over the plans, so if there's a little bit of fudge factor, again, I can pin it into place, and once it's pinned into place, the glue can expand and create the seal that I need. Okay? So again, we're using the balsa plans to create templates in order to build over the plans like a balsa build, but we're using foam and we're accounting for the thicknesses of the material. So these shear webs that are essentially going to make up my spar, like I told you about that wing, that one right there. So that's going to make up this outer panel, okay? But not entirely, so this goes to here on the plan, so just through here, all right? I promise this is all going to make sense once I get everything together. I've got a plan. It's going to work. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And I'm having a lot of fun along the way because I haven't built with foam like this in a long time in this scale. It's going to be fabulous. All right, let's get back to work. All right, guys, we're back and just going to go over what we've built. First off, we've got our outer wing panels. Yeah, there's a little bit of glue oozing out. Yeah, there's a little bit of stuff here that I need to grind off. That's intentional, okay? So looking at some of this stuff, it's not exactly perfect, and that's okay, because with foam, you can take stuff away and you can add stuff too, and you just don't care. So really what we're looking at here is spars extending into this rib and the remainder primarily using this foam spar here. But we've also got skins on the top and the bottom. The skins will be glued to everything. So not just this bar, but the ribs as well. And so that will create a lot of rigidity both this way, as well as this way. So in terms of the twist that you can put into the wing, it'll help control that as well. So by controlling the twist, in addition to keeping it rigid, by putting the bottom sheet on first, what you really get out of that is the ability to put in some washout. So it's probably just a good idea to add a little bit of washout on this plane for reasons. Just a little bit more stability, a little bit of safeguard. Again, this plane is going to be super light, so it's really going to be a powered kite. So any stability I can give to it aerodynamically is probably going to help. Now, the reason why we want to do the skin, number one, is what I've just explained. You get a lot of strength from the wing by doing the skins and gluing them with Gorilla Glue. Now, in addition to that, you have the shape that's being defined by the skin. So what I mean by that is here where I'm starting to build up the bottom section. So I've got a skin applied to the bottom portion of the center. Okay, so what I can do with this, so obviously this is a scale portion of the wing that I'm gluing up here, just holding it in place with pins while the glue dries. But now I can go in and see on the plan, so this is a mount point for the outer wing panel. So that's actually this wing panel. So in between these two ribs, there is plywood here. See? Plywood. And the reason you want to keep plywood here is because of this hardware. There are struts that go from the fuselage to the wing right here and right here. All right, so being able to integrate these hardware hard points is really important and crucial. So by doing the wing skin on the bottom first, you can integrate those hard points. In addition to that, you can also put in your servo fastening points. Generally speaking, servos are usually hidden on the bottom side of a wing, just for aesthetic. So once I get the outer wing panel sheeted on the bottom, I can go ahead and start putting on those hard points, like for the strut mounts. So those are the cabane struts. So cabanes go between fuselage and wing, and interplane struts go between wing and wing. We only have one wing, so only cabane struts on this airplane. And we'll do a servo pocket and cover for that. Nothing should really go on the center section. I'm still working out where I want that hole for the servo wire to go through, and I'm looking over the plans. Obviously, I'm going to have the servo wire running up one of the struts from the fuselage, but again, as we go, I'll explain what I do and why. So I hope you guys are enjoying. If you're liking this content, make sure you give me a big fat thumbs up. Because I'm pretty sure that helps the algorithm so that other people can see these techniques and enjoy this build as well. If you're interested in picking up some merch, I have some t-shirts for sale in the link below. And until next time, make sure you're building your foam work of art.